and we'll get started. So again, my name is Laura Holt, and this morning we're talking about self-care during quarantine. And I know in Houston, we're kind of in this weird pseudo-quarantine phase where we're like supposed to stay home, but things are open and not everyone's staying home. So things are getting a little funky as we go through this phase of history. And so it's been a little interesting. So I think this morning we'll have a lot of discussion about what's working for us and what's been really challenging for us. So first thing, a lot of people are like, everyone hears this word self-care. What does that mean? Well, it really just means taking care of you. And self-care can come in a lot of forms. And it tends to be used to address the signs and symptoms of stress. And I think we can all agree that a lot of what has been going on for the last 4 to 6 months has been very stressful. None of this is normal. And our lives kind of changed quite a bit, and we've been isolated from people, and we've been isolated from our families and our normal daily routine. So even though it sort of seems like, well, I get to stay home, I maybe feel like I'm on vacation, this is anything but a vacation. So caregivers, if you're a person who takes care of other people, your kids, your grandkids, your friends and neighbors, maybe your parents, you often forget to take care of your own needs first. And really and truly, that is one of the most important things you can do to care for someone else, is make sure you're also getting what you need. Because once you stop taking care of you, then you have less to give to the people who depend on you. So it's really important that you stop and take that time to say, this is what I need, and I'm going to do something for myself today. Quarantine can also pose some unique challenges and be really difficult for those of us who live alone. Others think that this stay-at-home order may have given us an extended vacation. I think at first, I know leaving the office, we all kind of felt like this is going to be great, and I think we're starting to get over that, and this is not so great because it doesn't feel like much fun, and vacations should be fun. So this is definitely not what I would call a vacation. I've definitely been feeling a little trapped and a little bit shut in and a little bit isolated. I'm from New Mexico, and we had a trip planned to go home and visit my parents and my niece and my brother, and I was so excited, and we had to cancel it because New Mexico is not allowing any out-of-state travel to come into their state right now. So, it's been hard to not get to do those things in the summer that we would normally get to do. And kind of get that refreshing feeling in our body before the grind comes back in the fall. So again, taking care of yourself is a really important way to cope with difficulties. So before we move on to some of the tips for self-care, I just wanted to ask, what are some of the things that y'all have experienced that have been especially difficult or kind of heartbreaking that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before, that this is going to be really hard? And then it kind of hit you that, oh man, that was really disappointing to me.
I think the hardest thing I had to do was yesterday was going to the doctor. It was scary. It was just for my yearly checkup, but it was a bit scary.
Yeah, for sure. I found out the week before quarantine started that I'm expecting my first baby. Yeah, and so it's been really hard to be pregnant during quarantine. And I think for a lot of people, I mean, I assume it's hard anyway, but this has seemed especially difficult time for me to have to go to the doctor every month and be like, I have to sit here with people who might be sick. And am I going to get sick? And will my baby get sick? And will I take it home to my husband? And so I think you're right. Going to the doctor is a scary thing to do right now. And normally you go to the doctor to feel better. And now it's almost just as scary to go. But I do think that it's important that if you have those appointments that you keep them, because, we definitely don't want to not get ourselves taken care of, and going to the doctor is one of the ways we take care of ourselves. We don't want to skip our medication or things like that. I can't see the chat. Has anybody added any comments into our chat?
I don't see anything yet.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have anything that they have had to do during this time that they just felt like was more difficult than it normally would have been?
Maybe just the grocery shopping.
Yes, going to the store has been very stressful, especially when you go and it's busy. and you think, why is everybody leaving their house? Because it's not only busy, but the stores are out of things. And so it's a frustrating situation to not get what you need. But then to also to have to be around people, and they are encouraging social distancing, but that's hard to do when someone's standing in front of the thing that you need, and you need to get it, and they've been standing there for 5 minutes, reading the labels on every jar of mayonnaise. Thanks, Arthur. I'm glad somebody's laughing at my jokes this morning. Makes me feel better. But it's hard to be like, excuse me, I need you to move 6 feet so I can get my mayonnaise because I know what I want. So yes, the grocery store season has been very difficult, I think. And then, everyone tells my doctor, in fact, since Jan mentioned the doctor, my doctor tells me, order on Instacart, order from Walmart delivery or what. And I'm sorry, but I have a really hard time letting some teenager pick out my produce. I've been in nutrition for 16 years and I just really can't let somebody else pick out my fruits and veggies for me. And so
yes, it's true.
Yeah, right? It's hard because then you get it home and you're like, that's not the one I would have picked. That's not the cantaloupe I'd have picked out. So I guess maybe had to adjust our expectations too. And that can be really difficult if you're kind of type A like I am and you want everything your way. Does anyone know what is that?
I ordered one time from HEB. I didn't like what I got, so I said I'll have to take myself.
Yeah. And when you do the order where you sit in the parking lot and pick it up, there is a thing, and I know HEB and Kroger both have it. I'm not sure about anyone else, where it automatically says allow substitutions. And that means if they don't have it, they can pick the next thing for you. But you can take that off. And so what will happen then is if they don't have the specific one you ordered, you just won't get anything at all for that. Like say you ordered, you ordered the name brand Doritos, which I don't recommend because they're bad for you. But say you order, it's quarantine. We got to do something nice for ourselves every now and then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you ordered the name brand Doritos and you really just like the name brand and the store brand are not good enough. If you leave the allow substitutions, you could end up with a store brand. But if you uncheck that box, then if they don't have the name brand Doritos, you just don't get Doritos at all. So I have found that I'd rather not have it than have one that I don't like.
True.
I'm a little type A and I'm a little picky, but I blame the baby for that a lot. I'm like, she doesn't like the store brand Doritos. So that's a thing that you can do to make that a little easier. But that is a hard one, is trying to order your groceries and have somebody else touch your stuff, which I struggle with a lot. Does anyone else have anything to share?
Excuse me, Laura. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say there's a couple chats to check too. I can read those.
Oh, if you would do that, that'd be great. I can't see them for some reason.
Oh, sure. One person said it is frustrating for them because some people will wear gloves and cross-contaminate everything. And I have definitely seen that too. And then another person said it's hard for those with loved ones in nursing homes or memory care that we aren't permitted to visit them.
Absolutely. And I think both of those are good points. The gloves, there's a lot of videos online where you can find the right way and wrong way to take your gloves on and off. And a lot of tips from nurses on what you should touch, but really the glove doesn't protect anybody but you, because you're touching things and then you're touching something else with those gloves that may have been contaminated. So honestly, when it comes to gloves in public, I really would just recommend hand sanitizer or wet wipes or something, baby wipes to wipe your hands with. And really try not to touch things if you don't really have to. So that can be hard with the fruits and veggies at the grocery store, not wanting to pick everything up and smell it, and definitely bringing it close to your face is a bad idea. But maybe try to look at it first and only touch the ones you think you're going to take home, because that can be really frustrating to watch other people touch stuff. And I always get annoyed when I see little kids in the store that have to touch everything. And so now that quarantine is happening and we're so worried about COVID-19, I notice adults who do it too. And I'm like, you don't have to touch, everything you walk past but we're sensory humans and we need to feel things. But I think you're right, trying to be really careful about what we touch. And then the frustration of seeing other people not being careful is hard. And then yes, the nursing home situation is so hard. to not be allowed to see our loved ones. And I have a friend who, she has been very, very, very careful during quarantine, to the point that I think we all kind of thought she was losing it a little bit. And finally, we asked her, we were like, why is this so scary for you? I mean, it's scary for all of us, but why does it seem so much harder for you? And she said, well, both my parents are in nursing homes. And when they finally say, hey, you can come visit, I don't want to have to wait 2 weeks to quarantine myself to go see them. I want to be ready to go that day. So she's put more pressure on herself and her family to be careful so that they can go visit her parents as soon as they're allowed. And so that is a whole nother stress of, not only can I not see them, but when I get to see them, will I be healthy enough to not contaminate that situation? And so that is incredibly difficult for all of us. So now that we've talked about some of the hard stuff, let's get into the things that can make this a little easier, because we definitely don't want to dwell on how hard this is. We want to try and find ways to cope with it. So during quarantine, let's talk about some tips to make this a little easier on ourselves. This first one is one of my favorites, and it's one that I definitely find helps me a lot, and that is letting the light in. And that can mean a lot of different things, but very literally, it means to open your windows, open the blinds and curtains, and let some of those natural light rays into your space, whether it's your office or your living room, or the TV room during the day, or the dining room. Having the blinds closed can definitely help us save on our energy bills. So during the hottest part of the day, I generally close mine, but I make sure that in the mornings when it's not so hot and I'm not getting direct sun in those windows, that I open them and I just get some real natural light into my life. And that is definitely important to me. And I try to get out and walk every day, but it's not the same. I need that light in my space to make me feel better. It also can change your circadian rhythm. So I do find that in the afternoons when I close the blinds, I'm more likely to want to nap. So it does make you tired to be in the dark. And so definitely letting some light in, even just for a few hours a day, can be a big change in making sure that you're feeling energized and ready to go for whatever your day has in store. And it does make sitting at your desk or in front of your computer or at your TV a little easier to bear for long stretches of time. And if you don't have access to natural light for some reason, there are several light therapy devices that you can purchase, but make sure they're light therapy, not just, like selfie camera lights. Nobody needs that in their life if they're not taking selfies. But you can buy like red light therapy and blue light therapy, and those things can definitely help to kind of jumpstart the melanin in your skin, which can actually lead to some endorphins. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting some of that. UVs can be bad for you, but in small doses, they also help you produce vitamin D. And we know vitamin D is essential for our bodies to process calcium. And calcium is important to all of us. So making sure that we're able to create that vitamin D and get that light in not only makes our body feel better, but it actually helps your digestion, like your absorption of nutrients as well. So that's one that I really like. Another one is to reduce your exposure to the media. And I think that a lot of us right now, that's our outlet to the world. And it's hard for us to see, to not know what's going on in the world, but really making sure that we're not spending all day with the news on. I know the news tends to boggle me down, and then I just feel heavy. And I'm like, oh, our world is broken. Our world is hard. People are not nice all the time. And I carry that around like it's mine. And it's not always mine. So it's important for me to not be exposed to that all the time. So making sure you're getting your news from a reputable source is important. And we're going to talk about some good sources later on in the presentation. And I think that is something that is really important to me, because there are a lot of rumors going around about what's happening in the world, and a lot of, I like to call them half-truths. And we find this, I think Laura Jorgensen can agree with me, in nutrition a lot. You hear people who get excited about fad diets. Well, those diets are based on research. It's only half the truth. Sorry, drinking water is another good tip. But I think the news has been really a proponent of half-truths lately. We have a lot of biased media in the world. And so making sure you're getting your news from a good source is important. And I would say devoting no more than 30 minutes at a time, not maybe 30 minutes a day, but 30 minutes at a time to the news or the paper or whatever, and then getting up and doing something else. Bake something, cook something, take a bath, whatever it is, just get your head out of it for a little while, let yourself process before you go back to it. And then another good tip is not to watch the news right before bed, which I think is kind of counter to a lot of us. Usually that's kind of like we start our day with the news and we end our day. But I definitely find that I sleep better if I don't have that weight in my heart right before I go to sleep. So that's just one good tip. And then some reliable sources of information. So especially related to COVID, these are COVID specific, but there are some websites here that can help you get what's reliable. And the way that I determined this was that for me, especially in my job, but also in my personal plans, my travel plans and things that I want to do, these websites have like the actual like legal ordinances that have been put out in the world. And so the office of the governor, you don't have to agree with him, but he is the one making our laws right now. And so this is his website that can tell you, what he's saying shops can do and people can do and who should wear masks. And I have found this one really important to me lately because like I said earlier, I'm from New Mexico and their governor put out a mask ordinance just like ours did last week, but she didn't specify an age. So it literally says every person in the state of New Mexico is required to wear a mask, which means that my 1-year-old niece has to wear a mask to daycare. And she's 1. That doesn't make sense. And it goes against what the CDC says. So I have found, I was comparing the two, and our governor was very specific on who can and cannot wear masks and the exceptions to those rules. And sometimes the exceptions can feel kind of funny, but it's a better choice than being like, your 2-week-old has to wear a mask or somebody with a respiratory illness has to wear a mask. So in that respect, I think at least the Texas government has done a good job of accounting for as many bases as possible, where some states have not. And then the Texas Health and Human Services Department, this has a lot of information on testing, on current symptoms that they've noted, and then on current rates of positive tests. And then more locally, we have Ready Harris, which is our kind of our county's sort of information portal. So anything related to COVID or even things like hurricanes and road conditions and weather, you can find on Ready Harris. And they also, if the internet is not your favorite thing, they have a hotline set up called 211 where you can get connected to experts to help you find resources that fit your needs. And what I found really great about this wasn't just for where do I get my COVID test. This was, I need help with the Paycheck Protection Plan. I need help with a small business loan. I need to know, what kind of services there are for my college students who had to change classes right at the end of last semester because there's money for that. This is information on the CARES Act and EFMLA and all these types of like ordinances and systems for help that have come out since then. But also locating doctor's offices and things like that. So it's not just necessarily, I think I have COVID, what do I do? It's, I'm stuck in my house and I need something. And whatever that is, if you call them, they will connect you to a resource that might be able to help. So I thought that was great. I know they've got a lot of resources for current child care centers that are open and even elder care and things like that. So that's a good resource to have. And then the Center for Disease Control, which obviously they don't create laws, but they are kind of our top-notch, putting out information. And this information's changed a lot in the last 4 months, and that can be frustrating. But again, keep in mind that we're learning, and research changes, and medicine is a science, and health is a science, and science is always evolving. So they are constantly keeping people up to date on what they're finding. And obviously we've seen that the vulnerability age has changed because we're finding more COVID cases in people in their 30s and 40s than we thought we would. However, we know that the older population, 65 and older, or those of us with illnesses or pregnancies are obviously more at risk because our body's also trying to take care of something else. So you can find that information on the CDC website. So some more tips for self-care: maintaining social connections. This is the one that I miss the most. I had a friend who, she's been super careful. Her husband is a teacher, so he's been at home. They've kept their little girl home from daycare. She's working from home. My husband and I are working from home. And finally, about a month ago, I called her and I said, I just want to see your face. And so we took lawn chairs over and we sat in her backyard and we social distanced, but it was just good to be in somebody's presence who wasn't, and I love my husband, wouldn't have wanted to quarantine with anyone else. But I was so glad to see someone else's face in person and get to have a conversation with her, not over the phone. So if that's possible for you from a safe distance, that's a good idea. If you share your home with others, don't forget to ask them how their day went. Just because you were in the same house all day doesn't mean you know every facet of what they did. My husband and I set up 2 separate bedrooms with offices in them, so I don't see him for most of the day, even though he's just down the hall. So it's important to us that we still sit down together at the dinner table and talk about our day. And then set aside time to check on your friends and your relatives and even your coworkers. And as a supervisor, it's been important to me to check in with my staff every day and see how they're doing. And not just what are you working on, but how are you? And so using these things that are available to us, like our phones, FaceTime, video chats, texting, email, or even sending a video. I video chat with my 4-year-old niece a lot because she loves it, but she gets bored. And so every now and then she just makes a video and sends it to me. And so it's been great to get those from her. And I have found that I have talked to my family, my extended family, more in the last 4 months than I normally would do. So in some ways, that's a really great thing because I've had the time to sit and say, I wonder how she's doing. I'm going to call her. Whereas normally I'd be like, I wonder how she's doing. I'll call her later. And so I have taken the time to call people that I might not normally have done. I've also taken up letter writing, which for you guys know, for my generation, we're kind of on the edge of that millennial. That's not a big thing for us. We're an email generation. And so it's been actually really nice to sit down with a box of cards or stationery and write letters and send to people. And I think it just kind of is a skill that y'all probably have that I don't, but it's been fun for me. And I think we all love to get mail that's not a bill or a piece of junk mail to throw away. So I thought that was fun, and I've been doing some letter writing. And it sort of helps me collect my thoughts and put some things on paper that I've been thinking. And then you can join or start a virtual group, which you're doing already because you're here this morning. So you can create a book club or join one. There's cooking clubs and exercise groups. Facebook is full of them. And you don't ever have to actually know these people. You can just be part of their online community. And you can take a class like you are this morning, and just connecting with others, I think, is a great way to kind of help you stay connected to the world safely. So then we have some little small acts of self-care. So these are smaller things that might just seem kind of silly, but I think if you give yourself 10 minutes a day to do one of them, you'll feel better about yourself. So getting outdoors. My husband is gardening this summer because we didn't, we had to be stuck in the house. We have more tomatoes than we know what to do with, so we're getting lots of vitamin C in our lives right now. You can exercise, take a walk, take a bath. Oh my goodness. Taking a bath is one of my favorite joys. Journal, write things down. Remember, we're living through history again. So write about it, because someday your journal may get published, and children, 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now may get to learn about the COVID quarantine or whatever else is happening from your perspective. And that's kind of cool. Organize your space. This has been a big one for me lately. I've been wanting to clean and organize things. I think that's because I feel a little trapped in my home. And so I want to change it a little. Stretching is one of the best things you can do. And there are lots of resources for safe stretches on Pinterest, but also on Facebook, and even the AgriLife website has some. So you can do that. You can read a book, which I'm getting tired of, but I've read a lot of them lately. But it does help me sleep, so that's nice. Give yourself a manicure or a pedicure. I can't wait till the days I can reach my own toes again. But in the meantime, my nails look great. And have a backyard picnic. It's a little hot for that one these days, but I have high hopes that we're gonna get some cooler weather in the next few weeks, maybe. And so it might be nice to get outside under the shade and do that. Miss Boyvon is like, no, we're not. We're not gonna get cool weather. I'm not from Texas, so I'm dying not being able to go outside during the day. It is so hot and the humidity is killing me. But maybe just open the windows and look outside while you eat. Clean out your closet. I've been on my husband to get this one done. Mr. Arthur's like, leave him alone. The closet in his office is a nightmare, but I just try not to go in there. It makes me feel better not to see it. Learn a new skill. We are never too old to learn something new. I am fixing to learn how to paint furniture because during my whole I want my house changed, I've decided to repaint my dining room chairs. And so I'm going to do that one in the next few weeks. Teach somebody else a skill. I think this is something that a lot of us don't think we have anything to give sometimes. But maybe, call your grandkids and get them on FaceTime or a Zoom account, and teach them your favorite recipe. I can't tell you how many times since I've been stuck at home having to cook at home that I have wished I could call my grandmother, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, and ask her, her recipes for certain things that she made when I was a kid that I miss. So maybe, if you're cooking something for dinner that you're like, oh, this is a family recipe, or this is something I know my grandkids like or my kids like, call them and ask them if they want to watch you do it and, teach them a recipe. Or, a skill that you have, if you're into woodworking or, you're artsy and you have an art thing that you do or a craft project, call and teach somebody else how to do it. Drink a lot of water. Like I said earlier, drinking water is one of the best things you can do for your body all the time, but staying hydrated is really important. Hydration, I think a lot of us hear that, stay hydrated, and we're like, well, what does that mean for our body? Well, water is actually the thing in your body that moves all of the other nutrients you consume to where they belong. So by drinking water, you're letting those molecules of, say, protein or vitamins or whatever attach to that water and then get pushed through your body, through your blood system. So drinking water is really important for your health in a lot of ways. But also it's hot outside. And I think with the humidity, sometimes we don't always feel like we need to drink a lot of water. But you do. So drink lots of water, and you can change it up, put some fruit slices in it or some cucumber slices, and make sure, we got a soda stream, which, I think people use to make that homemade soda. We don't buy any of the, the additives. We just make what my husband likes to call fizzy water. And so he just likes his carbonated water, and sometimes he'll put a little lemon juice in it. But it just for him is a little different. And if he gets that carbonation, that fizz on his tongue, he feels better about life. So, change up your water habits, but make sure you're getting a lot. And I'm going to take a drink because I'm getting scratchy. Eat healthy foods. Again, during quarantine, I think when we're looking for comfort, food is one of those things. And it's definitely been easier for me to order the Doritos on my Instant Cart than to order, carrots. But I try to balance that out and maybe, eat something that I shouldn't, maybe, once a day or once every other day, and make sure I'm getting, some really healthy snacks in during the day. So fresh fruits and veggies are great for that. And we talked earlier about how hard that can be right now. But just making sure you're eating something that's good for you every day. Planning a budget is definitely time consuming and something to do. And that maybe we haven't done as well. And right now we should be saving all kinds of money because we're not driving anywhere. So we don't have gas going out of our budget. I noticed that's where we're saving the most. Exfoliate. This is another good one if you're into that kind of spa thing. Exfoliating means to take the dead skin off of yourself. And so if you don't have like a scrub that you buy that you love, you can actually make your own. Sugar is my favorite thing to use because if I have any, like, say, hangnails or something, salt kind of can burn that. Salt's really good for your skin as a scrub, but sugar is my favorite because it doesn't burn. But you can mix a little sugar and some, honey and some baby oil or, something like that, or even just hand soap. Sugar and hand soap works great. And you can make a scrub and kind of exfoliate all the dead skin off. And it just kind of feels decadent, which I think every now and then we need that. We talked about writing letters earlier. Keeping a gratitude journal. This is one that a friend of mine has used a lot. She's been very sad about having to be home. She's very social, and not being able to get out and do the things she loves has been hard for her. So she just makes sure that every day she writes down one thing she's grateful to have. And I think she's noticed a lot of the things that her husband does that maybe she didn't notice as much before that were important to her. Like just taking out the trash, has made her really happy. And she's like, man, I'm grateful he does that because I don't have to. But before, she may not have noticed it as much. Get crafty, whether you're painting your dining room chairs or painting a watercolor. I've been really into the paint by numbers for adults that you can find online. They're cheap. They come with all the paints and they tell you where to use each one. Because I'm not an artist, those are fun for me. So I've been doing some of those to put in the baby's nursery. And so that's kind of a cool thing that you can do. And they are time consuming. So you can lose hours and be like, oh, cool, I spent a whole day doing that and didn't notice. So that's kind of great. Trying yoga, I highly recommend this one. I'm a little bit of a yogi myself, but trying some yoga, and there are lots of videos out there to teach you how to do it safely. If you're not super mobile, chair yoga is great. And really that just is about your upper body for the most part, with your posture and just making sure you're stretching those muscles. And just getting that lactic acid flowing through your body and moving it out of places where it's kind of stiff and stuck. Make a cup of tea. I was telling Miss Susan earlier that my husband has been finding a lot of comfort in hot tea, which is kind of funny in the middle of July to me, but it's making him feel better, and so I'm all about it. Teas are great for you, especially herbal teas. They have lots of things in them that can be good for your body. Try grilling some fruit. This is a big one that I think is great right now if you've got a grill, to get outside and instead of having ice cream for dessert, which sounds really comforting right now, maybe grill some peaches or some oh my gosh, grilled pineapple is one of my favorites. Play a board game. If you've got someone in your house, I've been playing a lot of solitaire during the day when my husband is working and I'm kind of taking a break at my lunchtime. I play solitaire once or twice and then get back to work. Baking has been something I've taken up a little bit of this time, which I'm not much of a baker. I don't have the patience for it, but I'm learning that I have a lot of time on my hands, so might as well just be patient. Plant a garden, install a birdhouse, take a free online class. You're already doing that. Have an unplugged day. This one's gotten important for me, and I know this is hard during COVID because our devices are our window to the world right now. But at least I would say once a month, if not once a week, just turn it all off. Maybe leave the TV on, but turn your phone off, turn your computer off, walk away from your device. We do not have to have it in our hand all the time. And I think we've gotten really dependent on those, and you'd be amazed how good you feel at the end of the day when you haven't been connected to a screen all day. And then my last favorite one on here is pray. And so if you are a praying person, you will know that can give you a lot of comfort. And if you're not, that's okay. Find something that comforts you. But this one has been a big one for me lately. So what coping methods have you all used that have really helped you and been beneficial to you? Did you find anything maybe that wasn't on my list or something that was that really worked for you? Feel free to share.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I didn't know if this would work or not. I've never used this microphone. I have found that setting a routine, instead of just getting up whenever I get up, I have found that setting an alarm clock and getting up and getting my day started and getting those routine things out of the way, taking care of the animals and a cup of coffee and taking a shower and all that, it really helps my attitude for the whole day.
Absolutely. Miss Kay, I see you've got your hand up. Did you have something to add?
My point was in the earlier segment when you were speaking about grocery stores. I wanted to share that I have went to Walmart 1,000,000 times during this quarantine, Kroger and HEB, and have had great results. I've had just no problems at all. It doesn't bother me that a teenager is picking up my food. And I wanted to say that Kroger does not take returns, but they are very big on returning. If they have substituted something you don't want, they will give you back your money. Or if you say, that was not the substitution, I happen to call the store. If they make a substitution, I tell them ahead of time what I'm looking for, or I'll call back. But it has been a great experience for me. I do miss going in the store, and the times I've attempted to go in the store, the managers doesn't even social distance. So that's a little bit of a problem and a concern for me. But I do have good things with them pulling up to the curb and then bringing them to the car. It has been very effortless for me and not a bad situation at all.
That's awesome to hear. And I should say that I've had good experience with it too. I had to get my head right with it. But you're right that I think those kids are working hard and they're trying their best for sure. And so it is definitely a good option to keep us safe. And you just really have to, if you're struggling with it, I think it's about getting it, right in your head and letting yourself recognize those good experiences. So I'm glad you've been able to do that. That's amazing. Anyone else?
There's a couple of comments in the chat. One person, Florence, likes to cuddle with her dogs.
Oh, I love that.
And Amanda said, at the end of the day, just finding a quiet place to close my eyes and let the day wash over me.
I think that's great too. I think just taking that kind of like almost like meditating a little bit, but just being quiet with yourself, I think is a great one. So thanks for sharing those, everybody. I love it. If you're finding anything that works for you, and maybe you're having a conversation with someone who's struggling, always share those things. I always told I used to be a middle school teacher, and I always told my students, if you have a question, you should ask, because someone else probably has that question and is too scared to say it out loud. So if you have a coping mechanism that's working for you, it doesn't mean it'll work for everybody, but maybe it's what someone else needs to hear. So definitely share those things.
I haven't shared one that I really like, play the piano.
Oh, that's
music.
awesome.
Music is important to me.
I'm not musical. We have danced a little bit in our living room, and that makes me happy. But I love that. I wish I had thought of that. Maybe I should take up an instrument. Maybe you should start giving me piano lessons, Susan, over Zoom.
My son has taught himself during the quarantine to play the guitar. We had an old guitar, and he's taking little lessons online every day. He's pretty good, actually.
That's fantastic. And I know there's a lot of places on like YouTube where you can find lessons that people are just putting out for free because they want to share. And I think the arts are one of those places. I know that I still follow most of the teachers I taught with, and all of the art teachers and music teachers from my school have been posting tutorials to Facebook, which is great. So find those things, and if you're interested, take up one of those. I know you can order, like if you don't have an instrument but you're interested, you can order something on Amazon fairly inexpensively. So that might be something to think about. And then finally, give yourself some grace. It is okay to struggle through some of this and to have those days, because at the end of the day, none of this is really normal, and it's just not. I was talking to a friend of a friend who is in medical school right now, and she's doing her mental health rotation. And she was like, this isn't normal, and it's okay. It's okay that it's hard. So try to do something nice for yourself and give yourself some grace at the end of the day. And then I love this quote at the end by Katie Reed, who says that self-care is giving the world the best of you, not what's left of you. And so I think that as humans, we all love to give just a little. And I always feel like I feel better about myself when I've given my best, and taking care of myself is one of the ways that I ensure that I'm giving my best to my staff, to my husband, to my family, to my friends, to y'all this morning. It was really nice. I haven't been getting up and fixing my hair most days, so it's actually really nice this morning to get up and really get ready. And I feel like I can take on the world today, which I haven't felt for a few days. So I need to add that into my routine. So if you don't have any further comments, we'll go ahead and call it a day. I know Susan has a survey for you to take. It's 2 questions, I think. It's really quick, and it basically just tells you or tells us how we did this morning. And so that as we continue to offer these Wednesday morning meetings, we can do a good job with them. So if you're willing, I think she's putting that in the chat, and you can take that survey. And then Susan, can you tell us how we will be able to see this presentation later?
Yes, the survey is about 10 to 12 questions, but very, very simple. It doesn't take longer than 2 minutes or so. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube page later this afternoon. And I will also include the links that for reliable news sources that Laura gave you in the follow-up email that I usually send.
Great. Are there any last minute questions or comments? I can't see the chat, so I'm not sure if anyone's typing me notes.
Well, there were a few more hints for self-care. Sanja likes walking and listening to music and church sermons. And Tiana is learning how to can and garden.
Awesome. That's amazing. Maybe that's what I should do with all my tomatoes.
Yes.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you all for being here this morning and letting me be a guest with you all. Like I said earlier, I don't get to do this very often, so I was grateful for the opportunity. I kind of miss being a teacher every now and then and a presenter, so it was great. And thank you all for sharing and being part of this.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Do something nice for yourself. Bye.
Goodbye.
Susan,
Yes.
I guess we forgot to promote next week's class.
Well, for everyone that is still here, next week's class is also at 10 a.m. and it is Let's Talk About Mental Health. And can you tell me about the presenter, Sanja?
Yes, her name is Sabrina Simon. She's a program specialist, family and community health with the Prairie View A&M University Cooperative Extension Program.